Welcome to True You Ministries. I'm Stacy Echeverria, your pastoral counselor. I am a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught me the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. I'm so grateful that you've joined me this week. You can learn more about me and my heartfelt desire to help people much like yourself who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling me at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344, or feel free to email me at info@trueyouministries.com. Now, sit back, listen, watch, and enjoy the show. And welcome to True You Ministries, and welcome to part 2 of Discovering Your God-Given Purpose. And with me today is John Rennie from Brushfires Ministry. Welcome to the show, John. It's good to have you back.
Thanks, Stacy. I've been looking forward to this opportunity to be able to talk to your listeners and to share what we do. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've missed part 1, I will include the link in the show notes so you can catch that. We had a really great conversation. And so we're going to dive a little bit deeper in part 2 with regard to finding your true purpose, right? What is your God-given purpose? And so let's start with point number 1. I'm really fascinated by this because I deal with it in my own practice. Convincing the person that they really do have a calling. How do you go about doing that?
Well, that was the biggest challenge because when God called me to the ministry, I had already gone through the training on the personality assessments for the YMI psychometric assessment. So I saw the tool that would do that, but how do I teach people in the church that are not really understanding that they are unique disciples of God? How do I teach them that they actually do have a calling?
Right.
And so I was sitting in that same chair where I said before, okay, I know you're behind this. What do you want? A year later. And I was contemplating my purpose statement, which reads as such: I must strategically lead a gifted team to embrace the power of their God-given design for long-term positive results. So, all right, embrace their God-given design. All right, that's the assessments. I get that. How am I leading these people? How am I going to do that so that they can produce the good fruit of long-term positive results? And I go, all right, well, I'm going to have to write the curriculum, which I had never written a book before prior to that. And as soon as I said, all right, that's what I'm going to do, God said, and you're going to call it Brushfires Ministry. I know that I was the very first one to have it in my head. I was the first one to speak it out, but I can't take credit for the name. Right. So I was thinking, all right, so where do you start if you've never written a book before and you're supposed to teach something to the church that's never been taught before, as far as I am concerned? Yeah. So the interesting thing, so this was in May of 2017, and I had collected a binder of devotions that, for whatever reason, kind of caught my attention over the last 20 years. I'd make a photocopy of the My Daily Bread or whatever it is that I was reading. And then there was articles that I wrote, like Intentional Christianity or What is Joy, or I wrote a message to a men's group called What is Your Purpose back in 2004. So I had all these things in this folder, and I pulled it out. And I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm going, that's identity, that's purpose, that's service, that's worship and praise. Oh, we got this, we got that. And all of a sudden, the chapters were already sort of assembled, if you will, as far as the core information. God had been writing the curriculum through my life for nearly 25 years.
Wow.
I didn't even realize that until it happened. So I can look at different, takeaways that are in the workshop curriculum, and I can point to the place in my life where that thought was provoked. I explored it. I wrote about it. I saved the article. And I mean, you should see, one day I'm going to do this in a live, maybe TV interview or something like that. But I'm going to pull out that binder because I saved it. And I'm going to show you
Uh,
how that workbook got assembled because it's bits and pieces of all these different things that got
yeah.
woven together into this
Mm.
manuscript. So
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that's how that happened
Mhm.
in my life is
Mhm.
to how do I make the case for a person to be able to understand that they have a ministry. So it starts off with identity. You
Mhm.
are a born again child of the Most High God. You
Right.
have a calling that gives you privileges, that gives you authority. God has second session purpose. God has a purpose for your life. You already
Mhm.
quoted Jeremiah earlier on.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
Jeremiah 1 where it says, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb.
Yeah.
Psalm
Yeah.
139, I
Yes.
am fearfully and wonderfully
Wonderfully made.
created. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
all those aspects. Service, the way the church presents it, is a drudgery. Oh, we need you
Yes.
to be in children's ministry. We need
Right.
you to be a greeter at the door. We need you to do this.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
make no effort to figure out how God created you so that
Right.
you can place where you will flourish and grow or
Right.
where you can be prepared.
Mhm.
Worship and praise. My aspect of worship and praise is far beyond what we consider it now. So, yes, a worship service, as we currently think about it, is singing to God and being
Mhm.
led into that moment of praising Him.
Mhm.
I think that is really short sighted.
Mhm.
Worship and praise in my life is I just helped somebody have a breakthrough in their life by giving
Yes.
them a purpose statement. I
Yes.
just helped a widow who has lost her identity because she is no longer a wife, and
Mhm.
I have helped her
Mhm.
find herself so that she can once again get grounded and become who God created her to be. I've
Mhm.
helped a young couple stop fighting because they have difference in design, that she's a thinker and he's a feeler, and now they can
Oh,
appreciate the opposite of one
yeah.
another.
Right.
So for me, it's those victories that I dance in the end zone as we accomplish those, where I go, all right, God, I knew that was all you. Thank you for allowing me to be playing on your team to be able to do that. But
Mhm.
that's worship and praise to me. And
Yeah.
so all that came down. Those were the core elements of the workshop materials that ultimately
Mhm.
became the digital workshop, which is on that website that you've been so graciously sharing with people.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
the 8 session of that training that we go through. We also have orphan child, engaged listening, teaching people to be a good listener,
Mhm.
a review of your spiritual gifts, and then we
Right.
talk about the design discovery meeting, and that's the full 8 sessions of our materials.
Right. Right. Yeah. Uh, yeah, the and it's all over scripture, right? The plan and the purpose, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We're created in his image and his likeness, both male and female, right? What else are we put on the earth for but to serve him and others?
Exactly.
And we do it based on how he has uniquely designed us. And so we come back full circle to that again, right? And two, with the different temperaments, right? So my husband and I are wired very differently. And I believe in our premarital counseling, which was was hard. I think we took, I don't know if it was the Taylor Johnson or a Myers, I think it was the Myers Briggs. And I couldn't see, because of the way it was being presented, I couldn't see that even though we were on opposite ends, we still complemented one another. And, he has certain strengths that I don't, and I have certain strengths that he doesn't. And here's the thing, even though we're very different in different areas of our lives, we still complement one another really well. And that's even when I counsel couples, and there's the thinker and there's the feeler, and it's usually the male and the female. And uh and and i and I just tell them, I'm going, you're really not that opposite, right? You're really not that different, right? It's perspective as well. It's the way that you're designed. It's how you approach whatever circumstance, whatever situation. But how can you move toward one another and know that your spouse is not the enemy, that the enemy is the enemy?
Right.
because that's what the enemy is wanting to create in the couples that are different, and yet they're really not that different because of the way that God created us. He's created us to work together and be in unity.
Yeah, we actually refer to this when we run into that where one of them is a high thinker and a high feeler. And as I said before, it's not gender specific. I
Right.
mean, the woman can be the
Right.
high thinker and the guy could be the high feeler. But um, when we run into that, we say, all right, you have an opportunity. You can allow these to create disunity and division in you and not respect the other person's design, because God was perfect in the way that he made her and perfect in the way that he made him. Okay. So
Hmm.
you can disrespect God and disrespect one another, or you can look at it as saying they have a different perspective. So think
Hmm.
about when you're trying to make a decision
Yeah.
as a family.
Hmm.
Isn't it best that you have one person that's trying to accomplish the objective and the other one is making sure that there's no emotional collateral damage in the way that
Yeah.
you approach that? We refer
Absolutely.
to those people that have actually embraced that as power couples, because they
Hmm.
have the ability to be able to look from different perspectives, come
Hmm.
together, make the
Hmm.
best full uh, a thought or well thought out idea. Where
Hmm.
people get in trouble is that they surround themselves with people that agree and think the same way that they do. And
Right.
then they are easily manipulated into going in
Hmm.
the wrong direction because there's no
Right.
opposing opinion. There's
Right.
no, wait a minute, we need to,
Yeah.
think about the plan here, or wait a minute, we need to, look at the facts here. They're,
Yeah.
they have they have tunnel vision because everybody thinks like they do, and so therefore
Hmm.
they think
Hmm.
that that's unity.
Right.
Unity is not conformity. Unity
Correct.
is diversity with understanding. I
Hmm.
understand this is my strength. I also understand because I have this strength, the opposite is my weakness or my blind spot. But
Right.
if I have other people that
Hmm.
can play that role in my life and share
Hmm.
that for me, this
Hmm.
allows me to be able to actually get the best of both worlds. I get the
Hmm.
benefit of making sure that the decisions I make are good for the whole subjectively, but I also can
Hmm.
make sure that we're accomplishing the objective.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really where
Yeah.
this world is. It's all about division. It's all about, we
Yeah.
just want people who are, going to
Yeah.
stick with the plan and be thinkers
Right.
and accomplish the objectives. Well,
Right.
wait a minute. What about
Right.
the human collateral? I mean,
Right.
if you look at the COVID mess that went through, that was made by a bunch of realists and thinkers
Yeah.
that didn't look at the human outcome of forcing people
Yeah.
to take a vaccine, forcing
Right.
people to isolate themselves, forcing
Right.
kids to mask up and not go to school and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
those were people that were looking at an objective
Yeah.
from a thinker perspective, not looking at the human collateral damage that they were
Right.
creating.
Right, absolutely. And there was an agenda there, and there was a lack of wisdom in that as well. And
Yeah.
anybody else that started speaking out against it and going against, the herd, if you will, um, boy. I mean, now the thing is, there's a lot of backlash on that right now. But man, we were called all sorts of names, right?
Yep.
Murderers, super spreaders, the whole thing. And the long term effects are concerning to me. And I thought about, being in the work, in the field that I'm in, I'm going, isolation is the worst thing we could be doing. No wonder the suicide rates went through the roof, and the addictions, and you name it, it was happening. And I'm like, how is this good? This isn't good at all,
Right. And that's
and
what happens when we deal with just part of um the aspects of God. When we just
yeah,
operate out of one narrow sliver of
yeah,
how God has wired people.
right,
We
right,
are made for community, and we need to
right.
hear the voices that are
Yes,
opposite of ours to
yes,
consider the possibilities, to
right,
look
right,
at the circumstances, and
right.
to make a good, well thought out, round decision that has the best possible outcome.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
we look at it from a macro standpoint, but it's also in the
Mhm.
micro, in a
Sure.
family's relationship between a husband and wife. What
Absolutely.
is the best
Absolutely.
decision for our kids? Well, we
Right.
have to have discipline that they do their homework.
Right.
True. But we also
Mhm.
have to let them know that they are loved.
Mhm.
Also true.
Right. Right. It's both and.
Yep.
You know? Yeah, I think about there was an individual that had been in our lives for a bit, my husband and I, and, yeah, what was happening there, there's this other aspect of this, right? Where we surround ourselves with people who agree with us because they're telling us what we want to hear, and that's very dangerous,
Yes.
right? And especially if what they're telling us is from a worldly perspective and they're not even people of faith at all. That gets even more dangerous. And I saw it living out in living color. I saw it happening. And my husband and I were attempting to be the voice of reason, the voice of, the Lord is speaking to us through us, and this individual wanted to do what they wanted to do. So, of course, they're getting worldly counsel that led them down a road that was just a nightmare. Not just for her, but for us as well. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom in knowing, number one, I don't know all the perspectives. So that's a
Right.
place of humility, right? There's some awareness in that. I don't know. But I'm going to have people that speak into my life that are trustworthy people, where they've proven themselves to be trustworthy. They hear from God, right? Of course, there's the other part of that where there are people will say, thus saith the Lord, and you're going, yeah, a little bit of a, manipulation going on there, because then how do you disprove that? I wasn't, he's talking to you, he's not talking to me. Now, when my husband and I would and I hope other couples do this as well, is that the Lord will talk to my husband first on something, and I'm just not there. And we don't move on anything until we're both on the same page about it. And where it's like, yep, the Lord has told me this. And my husband's like, yep, the Lord's been speaking that to me for a while now. And I've just been waiting for you to get there. And I'm like, okay, I'm here now, and so there's nothing wrong with waiting. There's nothing wrong with waiting. Hearing from the Lord, having that wise counsel. I know that the Lord uses trusted people in my own life to confirm things for me as well.
Yeah. You're probably more of a realist, and he's probably more of a futurist.
Mhm.
And so for you, it's always about the facts, figures, statistics,
Yeah.
measurable proof.
Yeah.
Futurists will also use that in their information that they gather, but they are also inspiration, intuition,
Mhm.
hearing from
Yeah.
God,
Mhm.
and so they will bet, and they will feel convicted or confident about those inspirations and intuitions as much as you are about 10 years of analysis. If God says this and they know it's God saying it, they're going to go ahead and feel that it's the right decision to move on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, that's that balance. That's that.
Mhm.
Yes, we need to
Mhm.
be practical about this. If you're going to build
Yeah.
a house, you have to have the money. You got to have a
Right.
foundation. You got to have an
Right.
architect. You got to have
Right.
a contractor, and,
Yeah.
and so forth. Those are facts, realistic aspects. And then
Mhm.
you also need that futurist aspect that's going to say, yeah, but we want to make a home. What do we want that to
Mhm.
feel like? What do we want that
Right.
to, what do
Yeah.
we want to accomplish there?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
again, it's the full complement of how God has created his children. And
Mhm.
it's that common unity that we're trying to come up with so that we
Yeah.
can make the best world. If you want to know why the world is going the way it is, it's because individuals are out there doing their own thing,
Yeah.
surrounded by people that agree with them that are
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
So
That's the bottom line. I love that. They're wrong. And it's true. It's
yeah.
true. Yeah. Well, there I'll be losing all of my followers at this point. That's okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm out there. I have to say this is really funny. And I'm taking this down just on a little side road right now. I'm on X, and there's a really nice community on X, right? I really enjoy these folks, and I really like the posts and stuff like that. And one of my notification this morning, I just was like, Wow. This is really something. I've since blocked the person because I'm just going, this stuff is stupid. I am on that person's list. I guess you can create lists in X. I have not explored it to that extent, where I'm on this individual's fascists list. Like, do you know the meaning of the word? Do you know what that is? Because this, so I went into that person's profile, and they're studying communism, and the West is imperialist. I'm going, okay, I don't think you have a full grasp of the word fascist at this
Yeah,
point,
they need to go start study Mao and Stalin
right?
because that's the
Just,
outcome.
I know. I get upset. I was just going, "Oh my word." So, I know how the Lord's been working in my life where I'm not upset by it, and I'm going, "Okay, Lord, I'll be praying for them because they need to come to the truth here because they're in bondage right now to a lot of lies." But anyway, that was just a little side note there, but I just thought it was really ridiculous. But anyway, let's stay on track here. Sorry, I just
Okay.
wanted to share that. I just thought it was so funny. And then right, the uniqueness of your design is developed by born again believers, not worldly. Design discovery meeting, create a purpose statement. Anyway, so I touched a little bit on right, not right, uniqueness of your design, right? When we're seeking advice, the world does not have advice for us. It really doesn't. And we've seen it, right? we
Right.
we've seen the kind of advice. Is there anything that you want to unpack with that before we get into the design discovery meeting and creating a purpose statement?
Well, part of my agenda for the next coming year is to come up with a discipleship
Hmm.
framework. And there are core elements that all believers need to have as part of their sanctification process. I'm using big words here, but discipleship basically is helping a person grow into who God created them to be.
Right.
And there are important elements to that.
Hmm.
Sanctification is the process. You said yes to Jesus. He's now your Lord and Savior. And
Hmm.
now there's a lot of undoing. There's false beliefs, lies that
Right.
you've accepted. There are
Hmm.
things about yourself or this world that you need to undo to be able to accomplish what God created you to do. So there's a process, and I'm creating this framework, discipleship framework, to be able to do that. So it includes core Christian foundations. There's certain things that you need to understand about your faith. There's
Right.
core disciplines. You need to
Right.
have time in the Bible so that you can begin
Hmm.
to learn about the character of God and learn
Hmm.
about the purpose of the church.
Hmm.
There's accountability that you need to have with one another. You need to be willing to go and say, you know what, I messed up this time. I mean, I clicked on that link and it showed me things that I shouldn't have seen, and that
Right.
was on me. But I'm going to be smarter next time, or I'm going to put in this filter, or whatever happens to
Right.
be. Um,
Hmm.
I'm going to learn what it is that God created me to be, and I'm going to get my purpose statement, and then I'm going to go to a wiser, more mature Christian who is
Hmm.
sort of wired like me to be able
Hmm.
to give me advice and counsel how to live out and to become that version of me that God created me to be. And
Right.
so this discipleship framework pulls together these core elements so that church leaders can lead their flock to become the disciples that God created them to be,
Hmm.
based upon how God created them to be. Not
Right.
their agenda, not what their pet projects are, but exactly what it is that God wants to accomplish through that person. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, this whole process of living this purpose statement out that we'll be talking about in a few moments starts
Yeah.
with a foundation. Do you have a relationship with God? Do you have time in the Word? Are you listening? Are you praying to Him? Is your prayer list all about what you want? I love the song from
Mm.
Jelly Roll. I only talk to God when I need a favor. That's how a lot of prayers
Mm.
are. Oh God, save me
Mhm.
from me getting fired for stealing. Oh God, save me from the CHP that's going to pull me over for doing 80, in a 55 zone. I mean, those are the consequences
Yes.
of your behavior, and you
Oh,
know you got
yes.
that coming when you do things that are wrong. So prayer life is, all right, Lord, what do you want me to do? I
Mhm.
know that I was created for good things. I know what this purpose statement is. I don't know how to get there, Lord. How do I
Mhm.
get there? Who do I
Mhm.
say yes to today? Who do I
Mhm.
put aside my agenda today
Mhm.
and actually have a heart to heart conversation? We have certain people based upon their wiring that have counseling and coaching. It's sort of just in them. And I can see it
Yeah.
and I call it out in them. And I
Yeah.
go, do not be surprised of ninja counseling sessions. And they go, what? Yeah,
I know.
you're going to be going through your day with your agenda, and somebody's going to come up to you and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
Stacy, do you have a minute?"
Yeah.
You don't look at your agenda. You go to
Right.
Stacy and you go, "Yeah, I got a minute." And all of a sudden, they're sharing something that's going on about their kids or about their
Yeah.
family or about work. And God wired you to be
Yeah.
able to minister to them without
Mhm.
a degree, without any kind of certification. You
Yeah.
can show and express the love of God, and God led them to you because
Mhm.
quite likely you have learned the answer to be able to resolve their issues. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
the process of being able to live out your purpose is the ultimate outcome of the sanctification process,
Mhm.
learning how to be a Christian,
Yeah.
but has to be done in community and
Yeah.
has to be done, um, and has and takes time to be able to get to that place.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. And I know with the culture that we're living in, and I even see it with my clients with regard to their own healing process. So how long is this going to take?
Yeah, yeah, because
And
I got a yoga appointment in a few minutes. Will this take long for you to completely undo all the things I've done in my life for the last 45 years?
right.
Yeah, it might take a
You know,
minute.
and I tell them it's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
just
well.
getting you started. You know?
Yes.
Because it's like it's right, everything's a microwave. It's a microwave society that we're living in. It's instant gratification. I want to be out of this pain as quickly as possible. I'm going, how long did it take you to get here? It's not going to take 6 weeks to get you out of here. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and it's also there's a quote from John Maxwell that I absolutely love because
Uh-huh.
it really helps us in understanding if we were able to actually help that person.
Mhm.
So it goes like this: some people have not experienced enough pain to need to change.
Right.
Some people have not seen enough in other people's lives to be inspired to change.
Mhm.
Some people have not learned enough to want to change.
Right.
And some people have not achieved or acquired enough to be able to change.
Right.
You have to be at that place where you've experienced enough pain, or you've been inspired by another human being,
Sure.
or that you have are really in a place where God can say, all right, now I can work with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I blurted out to God, I know you're behind this, what do you want, that he finally had my attention. That
Mhm.
was 6 months or so into the process of
Yeah.
him, redirecting my life. And it
Right.
was another 3 months from there that he led me to the personality assessments training, which I initially said no to very firmly. No, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. I'm not going to waste money on that. And God said, you need to do this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually, you did. So
Yeah.
there you go. It's like, and and the thing of it is, and I just tell people, right? And actually, there was this trainer when I was going through my pastoral sex addiction professional training, and this one thing that he said just blew my mind, and I thought it was just so profound because in my arena we talk about clients who they're not ready or they're resisting. And that could be true. But I hadn't thought about it in the way that he said it. Oh, they're just being difficult. They're resisting this. They really don't want to do this. Um, and there's a lot of pushback, and he said this. He said, "Those things may be true, but this might be true as well. They don't have capacity yet."
Yeah.
And that's been a game changer for me because I can tell when someone's resisting, and I can tell when someone's digging their heels in and they really don't want to be there, or the capacity isn't there. And so then I ask the Lord, how do you want me to help them gain capacity to do this work?
Yeah, we run into that. We work with Union Gospel Mission and the women's
Mhm,
facility
mhm,
that's in our area.
mhm,
And the counselors will only um, recommend, even though it's a free program for them,
mhm,
because we have sponsors that will pay for
mhm,
their scholarships.
mhm.
The counselors at UGM will only recommend the ladies that are at a third or fourth tier of the process. Because if a woman is dealing with physical abuse, if a woman is trying to get get released from drug addiction or something like that, they can't receive what I have to share with them.
Right,
Okay. They have got to get to a place where
right.
they can trust again. They have
Mhm,
got to get to a place where they are no longer dealing with the grips of addiction.
mhm,
That has to
mhm.
be addressed first before
Right.
they can start to really seriously
Yeah,
consider that God has a wonderful plan for them and
yeah.
that He wants to use them in ministry. That's so
Mhm.
far down the road for them that they
Mhm.
need to be able to get through today. They need to be
Exactly.
able to simply be able to take a breath and not feel
Mhm.
anxious. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
have a book fall on the floor and not, jump through the roof because their husband abused them or something like
Right,
that. They
right,
need
right.
they need to get to that place where they
Mhm.
have the capacity. All right,
Yeah.
I've healed from that, or I'm partially healed from that, I should say,
Mhm. Mhm.
and now I'm ready to take on more. So
Right,
yeah, timing
right.
is a big
It
issue.
It really is, and I think we need to be really sensitive to that, right? So I tell my clients, I'll say, "Look, you're driving this. Where do you wanna go? Where do you want to go?" And I tell them, "Look, I'm the facilitator, the Lord's the counselor." I mean, because he is, and, he will give me things to say, he puts things on my heart to share with them, to call things out, and so I just tell them, "Look, this is the work that I do with my clients." And as we get going, I just always check in with them. How is this for you? How is this working for you? How is, are you liking this? Is this resonating for you? Because I want to be sensitive to where they're at so that they're not triggered more because different people come to me with different things that they're dealing with. And we do really, really, really deep work. And sometimes this deep work can be so painful that it's so triggering that they can't do anything else. So I have to do something else with them. And so having that sensitivity with every person that we end up, sitting in front of is going to be really key in being able to help them. And sometimes I'm not the one that's going to be able to help at all. And I have to refer them out. And that's how I help them.
Yeah, no, and that's I had a sort of similar situation. A person signed up for our
Yeah.
program at one of the conferences we were
Yeah.
attending, and found out later on that she is going through some really serious trauma. And we're not talking minor stuff.
Mm,
So
yeah.
this
Yeah.
is not a
Right.
minor fender bender. She was going
Right.
through some really terrible things. But in
Yeah.
my just trying to see where she was at in the process and just trying to
Yeah.
understand that, she shared a number
Mhm.
of things that she
Mhm.
was really doubting her faith, that she was doubting the goodness of God, that she was really angry at Jesus for not showing up and so forth. And I'm going, she's not ready for what we have to offer her. There is just no way that she's ready for her. But what I could do was to point out what I saw. I
Mhm.
said, now's not the right time for you. I, I, I hope that you are reaching out to a counselor or a pastor
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
your thoughts are very dark right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was hoping that would cause her to reach out to somebody that was willing to sit down with her where she's at,
Mhm.
because where she's at is a very, very dark place. When
Mm.
you start to doubt the goodness of God, when you
Yeah.
start to doubt, Jesus's love for you and that sort of
Right.
thing, okay,
Right.
the enemy has a deep hold on her at that point, and she
Right.
needs help that I can't give to her at this time. That's
Right.
not my area of expertise. I
Right.
can Once a person is at a place where they're right, all right, I'm healed. I want more. Okay,
Mhm.
that's our sweet spot. We're ready to
Yeah.
take you to the next spot. But there
Right.
are people that are wired to do deep counseling, go through trauma,
Yeah.
and so forth, and to walk these people through these very, very dark and ugly things. And this
Mhm.
world is getting uglier and darker as we
Yep.
speak. I mean,
Yeah.
we just had an election, and I
Yeah.
tell people I don't look at this as the salvation of our country. I
Yeah.
look at this as a temporary reprieve.
Yeah.
We need to
I
get
agree.
ready for what's coming, because
Yep.
the enemy has not stopped. The
Nope.
whole the whole COVID thing was just a warm up to what they
Yes.
want to do with
Oh,
society and
absolutely.
controlling people and so forth.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so that's coming. You
Right.
got
Absolutely.
3.5 years of being able to get ready for
Yeah.
what's coming,
Yeah.
to
I
build
agree.
up the church,
Yeah.
disciple more people so that the
Yes.
church is ready.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. We don't look to man to
Yeah.
save this country, right? The Lord uses people,
Yep.
absolutely. But there is a savior and his name is Jesus.
Yep.
And so he still sits on the throne. He has not abdicated it. And God is in control. He knew all of this was going to be happening anyway. And so the thing of it is it is a message to the church, particularly, you know, to occupy until he comes. So what are we doing? Are we just going to sit and wait and go, the Lord's going to come? I'm just going to wait for the Lord to come. Well, we don't know when he's coming. So we're to occupy until he comes. And what does that mean? It's
Can I
doing
wait?
what you're doing and it's doing what I'm doing. Go ahead.
Can I speak into that, because that
Yeah.
there is that complacency. Well, Jesus is coming, and so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I will tell you, if that is your mindset as a believer, you are the virgins that don't have enough oil,
Oil.
because you are
Right.
not doing what God created you to do.
Exactly.
Okay, listen, if the rapture is going to happen in my lifetime, and I truly believe it is, and I'm 65 this year, I
Yeah.
generally do believe it is.
Hmm.
That means that God has a time in mind that
Yep.
this church age is going to come to an
Hmm.
end, that
Hmm.
people will no longer have a lifetime to accept Christ,
Right.
that the persecution that leads up to that is going to get significant, that
Yes.
the only institution left in this world that has not been completely compromised, and I say completely because it's partially compromised, is the church. We
Right.
are the last bastion of
Right.
kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, all the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
God is going to have a harvest prior to this time.
Yes.
Church, get ready. Make
Yep.
sure that you have enough oil to share with everybody else. Beyond that, that you are the virgins that are waiting for
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
bridegroom to come, which means that you are actively doing what he created you to do. Because,
Right.
like it or not, it's coming, and
Yep.
you have a responsibility to be actively involved in the ministry that God has set
Hmm.
aside for you
Yeah.
when he shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. I think it's important, and I know we're on a different thing right now, but it's okay that a lot of the reason I think why we're at where we're at is because the church was complacent for a very long time and they didn't want to get involved in politics and they didn't want to get involved in other arenas. And it's like there's 7 arenas of influence, people, 7 spheres that we just took a step back and said we're not going to get involved in that. Well, then the enemy was going to do what the enemy did, and so here is an opportunity that we cannot miss to step out, right, to get off the bleachers and get in the game already. I mean,
Yep.
come on, people. There are people out there that are feeling hopeless. There are people out there every day contemplating suicide. Every day there are people that are in a dark place, and we have a unique opportunity, right, to show Jesus to them and let them know that he is the hope and the light of the world. And this
Yep,
is
absolutely.
you know, look, I remember my life without him. I would not go back, and I would not for all the money in the world. There's not enough money in the world. You know, my life with God has been so different. Even when I go through hard times, to have Him in it with me is far better than to go through it without Him.
Yeah,
Because I know what would have happened to me. I would not be here today.
yeah, let me address that part of it too. So we already talked about the complacent Christians that going, well, Jesus
Yeah.
is coming. I don't have to worry. I'm not going to do anything. So let me talk to you, to the overwhelmed Christians, the ones that see the
Yeah.
evil in the world and just overwhelmed and feel a bit of
Yeah.
hopelessness. I
Yeah.
get that. I get that.
Yeah.
I really do, because the question is, what can I do to absolutely make a difference in this world?
Yeah.
Now, on your own, under your own mindset, under your own power, you can do very, very, very little,
Right.
a minor impact. I don't care if you're the wealthiest, most influential person. Um, Under your own power and authority, you can do very little. We're looking at the pieces that are going into play between now and Christ's return. So we need a master chess player. We need
Mhm.
a we need a God that knows every move of the enemy and knows what the counter moves are. He knows
Right.
everybody that is his and is called for his purposes, and he knows who's going to reach them. So the responsibility is not on you to figure this out.
Right.
You are being led by the God who spoke the world, the universe into existence. Do you
Yes.
understand how powerful he is? All you have to do is say, Dad, what do I do today? What is my part? The purpose statement that we do through the design discovery meeting gets them to that place that's close to that
Mhm.
area, but it
Mhm.
does not replace the actual relationship that you have to
Right.
establish with the Father to be able
Yeah.
to be used by Him. You
Yeah.
have to develop that, you have to seek it, you have to want it, and then you have to live it out. So if
Yeah.
you know that God said, hey, I want you to go and talk to to your neighbor Mary today, and I want you to save the gospel, share the gospel with him or her. That's all you got to do. You don't need to worry what's going on in Syria. You don't
Yep.
need to worry if we're going to help Ukraine shoot a missile into Russia and that's going to start World War III. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Right.
You got one job. Go to your
Yeah.
neighbor, Mary, share the gospel with her, because that's what your father told you to do. Because
Right.
simultaneously, he is telling every other one of his obedient children what to do. He is
Yeah.
putting the chess pieces in motion.
Yeah.
He is working his world to accomplish his goals. Now, it may not look like what you want it to look like. That person that you really wish, you know, is going to be in heaven, they make a free will choice to go to heaven or not. Nobody gets sent there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I personally hope that John Lennon from the Beatles is in heaven, but that's not my call. That was
Correct.
his. You know, my
Right.
wife would like to see Prince in heaven. You know, that's not my
Right.
call. That was
Right.
Prince's. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are things that that's our agenda, and that's not necessarily within our control. The
Right.
only thing in our control is to say yes to what God has called us to do and trust the outcome to Him. Be
Amen.
those virgins that have the extra oil, that
Yes.
are working
Yeah.
extra on behalf
Right.
of the kingdom to accomplish God's wills. And
Right.
then let God worry about the
Yeah.
missiles going into Russia. Let God worry about Syria. Let God
Right.
worry about all the other the transgender things. I mean,
Oh,
just
oh, yes.
let God
Yeah.
worry about those. If
Right.
He's not called you into ministry in that area, that's
Yeah.
none of your business. That's
Right.
His. You stay
Right.
faithful to what He called you to do.
Yeah. Amen. Amen and amen. And if we're not called into it, we certainly could be praying into it. right?
Sure.
Because I do. I see it and I go, I'm not called to this. I'm just not called to it. But I'll be praying about it. Just like I saw that stupid notification. I'm going, I didn't get mad. I'm like, I will pray for that individual because they are being misled. I just can't get upset about so much of what's going on around me because that's not where the Lord wants me. I have awareness of it.
Right.
And I certainly will be praying about it, but I need to be going about my Father's business right now. And we all need to be doing that. And for those, and for those that don't know what it is, that they're supposed to be doing, I am going to show you John's website. Reach out to John at brushfires-digital.com. There's a lot of work that needs to be done before the Lord returns. And this is an opportunity for you to find out, what is your purpose in life here? What were you put on this earth to accomplish? We all want to be occupying until the Lord comes, right? And doing the Father's business. What you're going to say, John?
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
If you are at a place where that that your life was called to something more significant than what you're currently experiencing, and you have,
Mhm.
as Romans 8:28, you love God and you want to be called according to his purposes, allow us to get your feet on the path to be able to
Yeah.
do that. Allow us to
Yeah.
coach you through the process so that
Mhm.
we can hold you accountable, or allow us to talk to your church leaders so that we can train them to
Yeah.
hold the
Yeah.
congregation accountable. The
Right.
very last words that Jesus spoke here on earth was, "Go to all the world and make disciples."
Right.
Not decisions where a person raises
No.
their hand and says,
No.
I've accepted the Lord and I've got my fire insurance, so therefore I won't go to hell. No, it's not that. A disciple is somebody who is actively trying to do his Lord's service. What
Right.
is it that you were called to do?
Right.
And let's help you figure that out. If you're not called to be a warrior, you are called to be a warrior. A
Right.
warrior, maybe you're a prayer warrior. Maybe you
Right.
are a counseling warrior. Maybe you are a
Mhm.
leading warrior. Maybe
Mhm.
you are a teaching warrior. I don't
Yeah.
know, but God does, and he's planted it
Mhm.
in you. And once
Yeah.
we call it out in you, your spirit will go, yes, that's who you are. Be that version of you. That's the version of you that God can use.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that. And thank you so much, John, for being on the show. I know we can talk for quite a while and there's a lot more. And maybe I'll probably have you back and we'll talk about some other things as well. It was such a pleasure having you here. And for those of you that have been watching and listening, please do reach out to John. Again, his website is brushfires-digital.com. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to figure out, what has the Lord put you on this planet for? What is your plan? What is the plan and purpose that he has for you? There's nothing more rewarding than being, aligned with the Lord and doing his work on this earth. There are so many people here now that are needing exactly what you can offer them and what he's called you to. So don't miss out. Thank you all so much for being here, John. Thank you for being here again. Appreciate you so much and all the work that you're doing. And I pray that the Lord will just continue growing your ministry and blessing you in so many different ways.
This was such a joy. I love talking with people that are like-minded in this area,
Yeah.
because it gives me hope that I'm going in the right direction and that we are actually making a difference. So thank
Yeah.
you, Stacy, for the opportunity, and
Yeah.
thank you for your listeners
Yeah.
that are willing to reach out to us, and that I hope we've shared something that's valuable in their life.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And to everyone, thank you so much. May the Lord bless you richly. You've been listening to True You Ministries with me, Stacy Echeverria, your pastoral counselor. I'm a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught me the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. You can learn more about me and my heartfelt desire to help people, much like yourself, who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling me at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344, or feel free to email me at info@trueyouministries.com. That email, once again, is info@trueyouministries.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and may God richly bless you.